No.
A poem with bears inside it is almost as exciting as a poem full of tigers. This poem has bears hiding in it. The bears are disguised as McCoys and Hatfields within the poem. Some are dressed in reenactment costumes. This poem is set in West Virginia, but close enough to the Kentucky border. It's Decoration Day. The person holding the poem and reading it in front of you thought that Texas might be a good setting for the poem because he or she was misinformed by a sign held up at a football game. This misinformation was remedied through the use of modern technology, which also accounts for the bear disguises mentioned in the first few lines. Bears like blackberries. They eat them and don't worry about the brambles. They don't worry about much. This poem, however, with bears disguised inside of it, who are feuding throughout the lower Appalachians like two families in some late year in a different belly-up century, is very aware of itself and full of anxiety at this awareness. If this poem were to get involved with blackberries, it would cover its papery mouth. It contains the obligatory word that someone will have to look up, a word like prolix or bloviate, though it may actually be the word obligatory, since the person holding this poem doesn't have the most extensive vocabulary. And if the person were one of the disguised McCoys, this wouldn't affect him or her one negative lick. But this person is neither bear nor disguised in reenactment attire, but the recipient of scores on standardized tests that would place him or her in the same percentile as many members of the clan of New England, come Texas and Florida politicians, whose family name is the same as a brand of baked beans, a brand and family name which became increasingly household due to an advertisement relying heavily on a talking dog and a loosely kept family recipe, as well as two failed presidencies. This poem also is written in lines, making it identifiable. For example, notice above. However, the bears are buried, or at least hiding out, inside these lines. Some might say obfuscated. You cannot find them even though they quarrel remarkably. Also, you may witness the poem's extreme self-awareness, very unbear-like when you try to compliment it. For example, if you were to say something like, I really enjoyed your deft handling of dactylic hexameter. Bravo, you even managed to avoid the facile spondy at the end there. At best, you would receive an insouciant stare and a shrug, maybe some delayed self-deprecation. Just below its surface, barely beneath the ink itself, rolled out onto the page where the bears are settling their feud and rehashing it, the poem feels deserving of more adoration, yet it wants to be left alone. It's conflicted in ways bears cannot be, inherently so. And that is why they're hidden here inside it, again, obfuscated, damn 75-cent words. The poem wants to maintain a level of decency, to be gleaming and obscured in a group. A group of bears are called a sleuth. Their mouths, unlike the mouths of poems, especially this one, are not riddled with insult. Their mouths are hungry and growing nearer to you. Okay, that's a good place to put things. I'm not going to read this next poem. So these are poems about a captain that I made up. I don't know what he's a captain of, or if it's a he. Or make a home arrest. I think it might be a he. Put your period before the question starts, if you have but one, if there's something that can be answered. There airs on the walkway a set of keys, a set of tuned chimes. Above this particular spot, the moon grows hungry. It breaks through the clouds, and a dim plate crashes in the street. It shifts and clatters at your feet. In your hand, a set of keys uncut, their teeth struck somewhere before the mold. A wheel sets to grind, high-pitched and whining. It spits light. The metal there races into shape, and you can't fight it. Another year of sailing favors with your body. A sea-racked hull braced with wind folds before the celebrating land. Ask your birth month how the rivets came to pin you to your ways. Ask the turning year how it whirs. One set of things before, and then you. A well-formed jaw and new shiny skin shrouded by blood. Your individual question. Even before the mouth, before its nameable sounds, justly pierced bowels, arrows struck through O's, stitched together with tiny eyes and then cut to bits. The night's length is a shroud in itself. It halves the many days that follow. To sign in the world, you'd come crawling through the death ocean of your mother. The things men sunk there, glittering worthless men, their vessels sea-caked and bruised, who captained many hounds, courses through her corridors, all hearts and apostrophe. Men who sounded the pitch and caught hold of their own running bodies, surrounding her one by one until all that remained was the surface. One water, one-faced mother, a coastal history to gloss and trample with their impressions. The shore on which they stretched, full of precast prints, new as the blank moon. How far between each step, how many before this way had hurtled, men who called eventually this land a new far Eden to fall from. Each one moving towards second grace, their first steps placed firm and directly into that ground of her, and you there, who sprung up at an indeterminate distance from this, beating blind now along the cobbles. Sorry.
Beer helps.
I have to wet the whistle. This is called the Captain Verses. Thanks to Mark Horosky for some assistance with this poem. The Captain versus a pinhole in the sky. The Captain versus a ship in a bottle and its unlikely creaking. The Captain versus his hometown silhouette. The Captain versus the sword at his side, his lover's slow eyes. The Captain versus a whale, something at least laterally familiar. The Captain versus a cloud of breath. The Captain versus flatlands in a far interior. The Captain versus a cattle prod of pearls, their overwhelmed and singing shells lost with all the bones at the bottom of the ocean. The Captain versus somewhere on a rolled-up map. The Captain versus another captain with a bigger hat and feathers. The Captain versus a sea full of juniper, one hand dragged across the water. The Captain versus a gaggle of geese, hungry and disinterested, they waggle around like beggars. The Captain versus the cot where he sleeps, tight and neat. The Captain versus a stick-frame house he plundered. The Captain versus the crow's nests, his legs steady, but not a spyglass in sight. The Captain versus a wine-colored bladder, his loosening teeth and gold caps, nothing to eat. The Captain versus scurvy at first, his legacy later. The Captain versus his shipmates, arms and all of his memories. The Captain versus his coursing blood in the water. The Captain versus another kind of vessel, his only dear, dear wish washed ashore on a land where no one understands his capable letters. So I thought about trying to move from land to sea to air tonight, but I don't know if that's working at all. This is a poem about a bird bath. You can draw the connections there. What happens when you become the bird bath? 1. Fade to grass cliffs, the shearing nudge at your base and near topples, someone touches your face, looks at their own inside you. An unblinking rippled eye, the vertical pronoun lost a cloud bank, population counter sent to black, a steady hum grows steady hum. 2. Gutter stain, harsh green but the wind, so white and blue and white, above that moves to taste the fires, their heart starting, their heart taken from each branch, given back. In your mouth a sickness no one visits, or breaks apart, and helicopters spin away, drop their sting on the quiet air. 3. The mouth gets stopped open. You're the mouth and stop, you're cannot get to clean or back. Water yes, water no, water white, piles and nothing chirping. Legs stick up the above, you're stiff, like paper the clouds cross, in them what's ground in you. 4. All that dirty water awash and rush, to the throat how to hold your mouth, open for whatever the sky wants to do, chirping beside you from the rim of your the quaking lawn alive, a swing set wrap to wake, set silent, with thorns and budding flowers at rest.